This is King Charles II. He reigned between 1660 and 1685, but that isn't actually how he looked at it. He said he'd actually reigned from 1649 to 1685, because 1649 was the year his father was executed. The execution of Charles I by Oliver Cromwell, as you can imagine, was quite a traumatic event for the young Charles, who eventually escaped to France. When he returned to become king, Charles had Oliver Cromwell's body disinterred and hung, drawn and quartered. As well as his understandable hatred of Oliver Cromwell, Charles II also hated the city and what he called the city mob. He blamed them for his father's death. Some people suggest this lack of sympathy for the City of London was why, after the Great Fire, Charles declared the fire an act of God. This legal declaration meant that no insurance was payable. Tenants would have to continue to pay their rent and shoulder the cost of rebuilding their homes. This was obviously a devastating blow for the city. Charles's declaration was met with bewilderment and disbelief in the city. They had actually caught people committing arson, and indeed of October in 1666 had executed one Robert Hubert, a Frenchman, having tried him and convicted him for arson. They believed they had people were responsible for starting the fire. Charles's declaration to the contrary left them bewildered. Charles's determination to rule the fire was an act of God, despite evidence to the contrary, good evidence to the contrary, left many people in the city utterly bereft. It seemed their king had abandoned them at their time of greatest need. People began to move out of the city, and for a while it looked like London might become a ghost town. This depopulation almost created the opportunity for London to be rebuilt from scratch to a new street plan that was supplied very quickly by Sir Christopher Wren. The opportunity to rebuild his capital from scratch was bitterly missed by Charles. He never really forgave the city for what they'd done, and perhaps this is why a few years later, as London was getting itself back on its feet, in 1672 the king announced he would no longer pay any of his debts to some of the principal bankers in the city. This left those bankers bankrupt and tens of thousands of families out of pocket. This is another indication of the love King Charles II had for the city of London and its people. And of course, we're taught none of this in school.